More about the Archdiocese of New Orleans consolidation plan. This plan will take effect July 1st of next year. According to a letter from the Archdiocese, Our Lady of Divine Providence in Metairie and Christ the King in Tarrytown will remain open. Here's a look at the listed parish mergers. They include Our Lady of the Angels in St. Bonaventure, St. Gertrude and St. John the Baptist, and St. John Bosco and St. Rosalie in New Orleans. St. Mary of the Angels and Our Lady Star of the Sea will join together. The Transfiguration of the Lord, St. James Major and St. Gabriel will merge. There are also cases of parishes dividing property. There are two cases where parish territory will be merged into neighboring parishes. St. Teresa of Avila will be divided and merged into St. Patrick and St. Alphonsus. St. Hubert in Garyville will merge into St. Peter, but St. Hubert will remain open for one Mass each weekend.
These are difficult and painful decisions for everyone involved. When I returned to New Orleans in 2009, I never imagined that I would be in the situation of having to merge parishes. This is painful. It is difficult for all of us. But this is something that we must do for the good of the local church and something that is being done in Catholic dioceses around the country.
Again, these changes will take effect starting July 1st of next year.